Okay, so step one is disconnect the battery. So I'm under the bonnet and we'll do that. So we pop up this cover just here to expose the terminal, and it's got what looks like a 10mm socket. So we just have a little, yep, that fits fine. And hopefully now that will just come off. So there we go, battery disconnected. So another thing this car doesn't have is a switch for the rear demist. Now I'm going to make the assumption that the wiring is in place in the wiring loom because they'd been standard throughout. So I have bought a new switch to go in here, which comes with a relay, and the temperature control kind of jams, oh, and then lets go, and is just really horrible because this just pushes and pulls a cable and a sleeve to a valve towards the heat exchanger at the back. So it's either the valve on the heat exchanger, hope not, or the cable. So I have. Okay, so this is going to be interesting because I've never done this before. So the fascia comes off, I know that much, and then I've got to figure out how this bit comes out. This fascia trim just jiggles about, comes straight off, and then we have this. Now I'm going to assume that there's some catches either side, and I've got these old radio remover things that I used to have for an old Focus I had. Let's see if they work. Yeah, we'll actually video this because it's quite interesting. So I found that if I take one of these keys and I jam it in that side, and I take the other key and I jam it go in there, we go in that side, then I can kind of jiggle it a bit and pull them both towards me. I'm just going to see if I can balance the camera while I do such a thing. Quite tricky really. So yeah, this is not working out, is it? I kind of need to the whole unit, whoops a daisy, and now as you can see it's out. So that was reasonably straightforward all the way out, and there's a bunch of wiring in the back which hopefully has some kind of universal connector on it that I can undo. With the radio out the way, there are apparently some points down the sides of the fascia panel which I need to release to make it come off. So I'm going to try a similar trick with that. So to get the fascia panel off, I had to release this thing, just pulled straight up over the top of the gear lever. Then this piece I just had to work around it and pull it forward, a bit of a pull, and off it came. So now I need to remove this and see where we're at. I need this out the way, which means I have to unscrew it. Post-production. There we go, finally. Gear knob off, pop that down there. Now this piece should come straight off, and then that gives me a bit more room. Might have to just pop the gear lever back a bit to give me a little bit more space. But now I need to disconnect the cables from the back of the clock, the pressure gauge, and the fog light switches and electric windows. I'll do that. This is interesting. So the back of the panel here, I've undone the two electric windows, which are either end, and then here and here are the two fog light switches. But interestingly, this, which on the front of the panel is just a blank switch, should be the rear demister. Now I've bought the switch for that, but it has this already plugged into it, so I'm kind of hoping that this is going to be a very simple wiring job to hook up the heated rear window. With the heater controls exposed, we should just be able to pull these knobs. Oh, that's an interesting bit. Quite sure where that goes. Oh, back in there, it just pulled out with it. Okay. Straight off. And now we should. There are some securing screws at the sides and underneath. I believe I need to have a quick read. I've got myself a relay of the rear window switch, which I believe should plug straight in, and that's an adapter for the other end of the wiring loom. My centre console here, so I can just push this piece out, and then I should be able to take my new Demist switch. It just needs, there we go, just a little bit of alignment. And persuasion. And now we're down in the footwell and pointed it more or less in the same direction, so that there are two screws apparently holding this panel on, one down here and one over there somewhere. So I need to locate and hopefully remove these screws. Removed, this panel should now come free, and we've just, ooh, okay, the light fitting's a bit busted up. That's a shame. Never mind. And now hopefully we can see, so here this red fella is our heater control cable. Sorting this out is going to be reasonably straightforward, but obviously at the moment I can't see the front of it. So this is some kind of electronic control unit that I need to release and drop down out of the way, and then I can get at the heater controls, which are up above it. The problem I've discovered is if I just point the camera up under here, go back a bit, to these securing screws, there's some kind of anti-tamper thing, and I need to be able to drop this unit out the way so I can get at the heater controls. Now I know I don't have one of these anything to undo that with, so this stays as it is for the moment, but I'm just going to see if I can lubricate this cable a bit, see if that improves the situation. So just got my can of WD-40 and damn it, damn it. Yep. That's real. This back together now. I'm just going to give it a quick clean before I do that. So I've got my packet of disinfectant wipes. I'll start by just the console was reattached the switches at the bottom and the clocks and the hazard light at the top, and then it was a fairly simple, just a push fit back in to where it lives. Now I need to reattach my radio and put the knobs back on the heater controls. The radio took a bit of jiggling to make sure there were no wires stuck behind it to get it to seat properly. But apart from that, we're all back together, and we now have our shiny new switch. I've also got a relay I've got to fit and figure out where the other end of the cable is that attaches to the rear window.